Tiemco 2457 in a size 14. We'll tie it down anywhere from tie it in a size 14 down to an 18. The thread I'm using is 16-knot Tiemco white thread. We tie the thread in a couple eyes back from the eye of the hook and take it back into the bend. I'm going to create a little bump of thread here and then take my coq de leon fibers, and I use that bump to lift and spread, flare out those coq de leon fibers. The coq de leon is a medium, and I like it because it's translucent when it's wet and it tapers beautifully. Adjust the length of my antenna, trying to keep the fibers on top of the hook. And bring it back to where I tied in point, just about the tie-in point of my thread. And trim that extra coq de leon. And bring my thread back up into my tie-in point. Now I've got a piece of, I believe it's aught, Tippet, and I've melted the eyes and tied in right to that tie-in point and figure eighted in. What I have here is a piece of lead. It's going to do two purposes. It's going to build up that hump for my scud, and it's going to give me some weight. As you can tell, it's off of a spool, and I've just taken my pliers and flattened it out. And I like it to go from behind the eyes almost to the eye of the hook. If you go all the way to the eye, it has a tendency to give it a little too much bulk, and it'll encroach on the eye of the hook. Now lash it down really good, and then I'm going to coat it with a little bit of super glue. I'll smush it down a bit also with my pliers. It also gives me a little bit broader scud, which is what I like. A little more breadth to it. Now I'm going to take there's my super glue. I'm going to take 2 pieces of Peacock Herl, natural, and 2 olive dyed Ostrich Herls, and they're going to be my legs. The reason for using other than just the iridescence from the Peacock, it also gives me, it's a little bit stronger than the stems on the Peacock, on the Ostrich Herl, and so it holds up better for making that ribbing. You'll see here in a second. I'm going to smush my super glue around. Now I also won't use lead, I'll just use D-rib, but a little bit of lead is not going to hurt this at all. It'll just give it more weight. And you can see I've got those 2 pieces of Peacock Herl and 2 pieces of Ostrich Herl. And I tie it in from underneath and then bring it to the back and try to keep that material under the bottom of the hook shank. Now, to be honest with you, I came up with this technique, one, to take advantage of the eraser and getting the segmentation from the Peacock, but also a way to create those bushy legs and not have to do a pot's weave, and then still get that nice carapace on the top of the scud without having to use scud back. So I'm going to just take that peacock herl. I'm not going to twist it. Peacock herl and ostrich herl. I'm just going to wrap it. Now brush back those fibers so I don't trap them underneath. You know, people have tried to, I guess you could try to trim that ostrich herl with scissors, but you'd have to put a lot of UV resin on there so it doesn't stick out and look real ugly. But by using that electric eraser, it'll take most of it out, and then it gives you that segmentation. I'm just going to trim it off here and then tie off my thread. I like that combination of ostrich herl and peacock herl. Now I'm going to take a bit of saliva, change the position of the hook. I'm going to take a bit of saliva and I'm going to push those fibers down, and therefore exposing more of the stem. And then I'm going to take my electric eraser. You can get these things for less than $10 on the web. And I'm going to use that eraser to erase those hairs off. I tried to use just ostrich herl, but the ostrich herl is not strong enough. You need to use something like peacock or maybe even pheasant tail. It's the only way you're going to get it to do it whole. It'll break otherwise. Now you can see here I'm trying to take a little bit of the sides of the, bring that eraser to the sides of the scud to take off some of the hair from there also. And so you get that nice exposure of the stems of both the peacock herl and the ostrich. And you get that gorgeous segmentation. Now it's just a matter of taking a little compressed air and blowing off that excess eraser. And take a bit of saliva again and push it down. Now I'm going to take my UV resin and coat that top. You can see a little bit of a hair showing up. If you get two hairs that you can't get up, then just burn them off. I just use a cauterizing tool. But this looks pretty good. And I also know that my UV resin is going to thicken enough to cover it so that it doesn't really look really rough. So I'm going to take my UV resin, drop it over the eye, drop it a little bit on the side of the scud, and then of course bring it on the top, and I'll build it up a little bit over the top. Now you can see right there how gorgeous that segmentation looks like. And this thing holds up like a beast. Now I'm going to take my UV flashlight and cure my UV resin. You'll notice how that white eye or white thread glows under that UV light. I always wondered if maybe the fish saw part of that. Yeah, I've got that white thread, so I'm of course going to color it a little bit with the marker. And I'm going to brush out the legs a little bit with my dubbing tool. You get those nice long legs. I also get the iridescence from the peacock, and I get that gorgeous segmentation from the stems. And that's my eraser scud.